Hello, welcome to Hard Refresh, the official podcast from State of Social 2025. What are we doing here, you might ask? Well, we're polishing off our standard issue State of Social crystal ball to discover what's in store for the next 25 years of digital marketing. We're diving deep into the trends, technologies, cultural shifts, and maybe even the controversies that will shape this industry and in turn, shape society in large. My name is Andrés López-Varela. You can call me ALV, or my mates do. And today we're recording on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people live at State of Social 2025. Coming up in this episode, we do a hard refresh on data. Data has always been marketing's fuel, but the mix is shifting fast. The death of third-party cookies didn't end up happening, forcing teams to get serious about things like consent for collecting data and running experiments. The opportunities for marketers who really understand data will expand as this becomes more and more part of an effective brand storytelling. In the next 5 years, the center of gravity is likely to move further towards big brands that can afford to sink big money into even bigger data plays. And beyond that, how are we going to be sure if the data we collect about our audiences is showing us a picture of real people or just AI avatars? So let's get nerdy and talk all things data with our panel, including Andrew Douglas, Marketing Manager at Hunt & Brew. How are you, Andy?
Good. Thanks for having me, ALV.
Welcome. Heather Lansdowne, the Social Media Manager at the Australian Bureau of Statistics, aka the ABS. I mean, Heather, if anyone knows data, it's you, right?
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, you're in the right spot. That's good. And we also have Rene LeMerle, General Manager of Growth at performance agency Bonfire. Ren, how are you?
Good, thanks, Andre.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me. It's very exciting in this very warm, well-lit room at State of Social. You guys enjoying the event so far?
It's been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very insightful.
Excellent.
Learned a lot about Bluey.
Yes.
Louis,
Yeah, we learned a lot about
and
Blue's
the Empire
Horn.
State Building.
Yeah.
And the Empire
Now it's
State
got a
Building.
personality.
That's it, yeah. Now it's got a personality.
And is a Swiftie.
It's a Swiftie as
Very
well,
Swiftie.
yeah.
It doesn't like emojis. That was new.
No.
That was interesting, yeah. And that's for all of you. Keep an eye out on our other episodes because we'll be speaking to Kate O'Connor, who led the Bluey brand and commercial activations, and Tyler O'Day, who's the social media director at the Empire State Building. More of that in your feed. Okay, everyone ready? Time to do a hard refresh.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's get the awkward bit out of the way first, right? Everyone says they're data-driven, right? But it's true that lots of marketers probably only have a shallow understanding of what data can do for them. You know, how to read it, how to interpret it, how to use it. There's an ocean of data at our fingertips, and it can easily lead to the wrong decisions, you know, if we don't know how to use it correctly. Ren, I mean, you see how dozens and dozens of brands work with data every day. What's going on here? Where's the gap between what we say we know and you know, maybe what we actually do know and understand?
There's a big gap to cover. I mean, there's probably a few points on that. Marketers have been swearing by the value of data since, I mean, I've been around for a bit longer than the rest of my contemporaries on this platform. And we've been talking about data as big data for 3 decades, right? And it was going to be the secret sauce that was going to unlock all of this great potential, and corporations were spending heaps and heaps of money on it. And no one ever made sense of it, right? Because the data was so big. It's like, what are we going to do with it? And I think that challenge still exists. And the biggest problem that we've got often as marketers is there's so much data out there from a marketing point of view. People don't know what to focus on, right? And so the gap or the opportunity for a lot of marketers is actually working out what metrics matter for what they're trying to achieve. And I feel like we get so data-driven that we obsess on data for the sake of being obsessed about data, and it actually doesn't necessarily deliver better outcomes or better campaigns or any of that sort of stuff. So I think if we can simplify it and actually get to the root of what's important for our respective organisations, that's kind of the key.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Heather?
Yeah, I agree. I think finding what's important to you, and it's interesting hearing from the Empire State Building this morning talking about, some people just view followers and likes and impressions as vanity metrics, but for them that's really important. And I think that's something that's really key to think about, because you kind of get this aggregated advice that's meant to go out to all marketers, but I think it's also important to think about what's important to you. You know, is it conversions, or is it just brand awareness, or, you know, like at the ABS, getting people to fill in a survey and be aware of what the ABS does and the data that we have and how that kind of shapes the future of Australia. So
yeah, it's fair. It's good. And well, I mean, you and your team have turned otherwise, I guess, perhaps some people might perceive them as random or unusual, dry stats into like really must-share content time and time again. So it's clear you know your way around a dashboard and a pivot table and the right metrics, as Ren says. What do you think is the missing piece or like the missing pieces when it comes to understanding how to use data, not just to measure, but to tell stories and to kind of, engage people in a brand in a more meaningful way?
Yeah, so it's interesting coming from the ABS and I guess talking about data in a little bit of a different way to some of the other guys on the panel. I think, data doesn't just inform our strategies, it actually is the content of what we're also putting out there. So we obviously love to use interesting data visualizations in our social media content. So we've done a lot of training and experimenting on what works and what doesn't. And some of the things that we found, especially on social media for a very general audience, is that the simplest is the better, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would have a graph comparing like 10 or 20 different things, but if you look at the graph comparing just 2 things, that one will generally do better. And we also wanted to really focus on kind of putting things in context. So you can say, oh, this many people visited the Great Barrier Reef this year.
Yeah.
But that's not that interesting on its own. It becomes interesting when you kind of add context to the story. So, that might be compared to last year, has it dropped or has it increased, or compared to other tourist attractions around the world. And that's when it kind of helps to like create that story for people. So just really humanizing that data, I think, has been the key to our success.
So the context is really important, I guess, like actually saying why that data matters. And perhaps, Ren, similar to what you're saying, like we should choose metrics and understand the context of why they matter to us and why they matter to the activity we're doing. But likewise as well, it seems like you're saying if you're communicating data in stories, people need to understand why it matters to them in order to actually not be like, glazing over at the side of infographics and bar charts. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we try to kind of tap into any kind of pop culture moments or trending things that might be coming up to get people interested in something that they might already be interested in, like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or something, and then sneak a little bit of data in. I call it like
Sneak the data in.
Spoon feed it.
Yeah, like a spoonful of medicine. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
That's it.
That's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah.
Spoonful of Star Wars helps the data.
Go down, yeah.
That's really interesting. Sorry,
You
Andrew.
go. Yeah.
I was just going to say, because I think that's a really key part with data, and maybe even going back to the gap piece, is a lot of people just see data as data points, and they're very good at this is what the data says, but don't actually know what the data's really telling us, right? And that's the story and the insight in it. And anybody can read data, right? And you go to your 5,000 dashboards, you go into your Google Analytics, whatever it is, and it says, okay, this is 21% click-through rate. But looking for what the actual story in that data is the insight that actually makes magic happen, whether that's trying to convince people that going to the Great Barrier Reef is a good thing to do, and why are people suddenly doing it now more than they ever did. That's why I think people engage with it, right? Because it's a storytelling. Otherwise, data's boring. Sorry. For everybody, right? It's just the numbers. It's kind of binary.
Yeah.
But if you can tell a story with it, that's when people come on a journey with you.
Yes.
I think that's important.
Yes. Andy?
Do you find from like a performance marketing background that a lot of people talk about being data driven and then their actual decisions are completely different from that? And do you have because I have a gut feeling on it, but like coming from an agency background now to a client side role, there's a lot of gut and intuition that goes into decision making that people try and say, I'm a data driven marketer, and it's actually nonsense. Do you see that a lot? You get frustrated by it?
You see it a bit, but
Yeah.
I mean, a part of that is because people don't know what to do with the data.
Yeah.
Right? And so and that's kind of understandable. Okay, I saw this and I saw that, but what does that actually mean? What is the insight? I'll just go and do something else, right? But I also, the old school marketer in me says not everything is visible through the data, which is kind of counter to this
Just because you can measure it doesn't mean it's worthwhile.
Well, yes, definitely. But also, if we get in this whole like performance versus brand conversation, if everything gets measured to the nth degree, I think there's some nuanced performance that gets lost by being so focused on the data point, right? And the data point, especially in this day and age, is very much about what's in the next week, the next month, the next 3 months, right? And that's not to say if I can use one of our own references, a billboard doesn't deliver a great outcome over a great period of time. But when we've put that billboard out, there was no data, whether qualitative or quantitative, immediately that said it worked. But we had to trust a gut instinct that it being there and the laws of branding over many years tell us that it's something worth doing.
Yeah.
And that was the data point, was just an insight from the past. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think,
I think it's the more and more I get into my career, the more I see people are trying to make sure that their theories or what they're doing is backed up. Like whatever data points we can pull out to really justify it, particularly to the C-suite and the CFO. I don't think she'll listen to this one. I love my CFO to pieces. She doesn't understand marketing.
Hi, Andy, CFO. How are you?
Hi, finance.
former CFO.
Yeah. Sorry. I love her to pieces, and she comes at it from a very financial and analytical perspective, and I'm trying to take her on this journey now about saying it's not about just because I put a billboard out there doesn't mean I can measure that right this second.
Yeah.
But there are ways. We have our brand trackers set up. We can prove awareness over time. We can do all this stuff, but it's more about that mystical weirdness that kind of exists in advertising, where just because like this might not nudge you now, but it could nudge you in the future. And I think we're going down that short-termism and the performance path too much, because there's so much you can measure down that end that you forget all the magical stuff that happens that's driven by real creativity.
So let me ask you then, because I mean, I imagine you're at Hunt and Brew, you guys are a challenger brand. You're sort of, I guess, experimenting probably in a lot of different ways across the business. How do you use data to kind of give you confidence in what you're testing? And that conversation that you're having with the CFO, I think it's very valid. What you said, Ren, like the gut feeling is very important, and actually perhaps what makes data most useful is when it's in the hands of someone whose gut is very experienced to sort of understand that A plus B doesn't always equal C, but that it doesn't mean it's not useful. So how do you use data to sort of, give you confidence?
Yeah, heaps. I mean, for us, I think people forget when they see an FMCG brand on a shelf that we have customers and consumers. Our consumers is somebody who's going to buy that off the shelf, and they have hopefully seen some sort of brand awareness along the way or just want to try the product. Fantastic. Our customers are people like Woolworths, Coles. We have to sell it into retailers before we even have a shot of getting it onto the shelf. When you're a challenger brand, you've got a higher step up to get into, because small brands get fucked and big brands roll in it. And that's been a massive learning curve as we launched in the UK. So we've had to really convince, because we're launching at higher price points as well, we've had to convince retailers that customers are there as well and consumers are there. So we're utilizing data in terms of getting on shelf. We're also utilizing it from like a product development perspective. So we see the trends, like protein trends aren't going anywhere. I saw a high protein pasta the other day. I think that's gone too far down.
No, thanks.
But we use data in that world, and then we try and use data from a market research perspective. We go from broad market research from like global platforms like Mintel, which gives us really interesting insights, to our own brand tracking insights, to now what are we go away and execute. So we have all these data points throughout the stages, but to come back to Ren's point, the data is great, but it doesn't tell a story. And that's where I think we should hopefully get to as we start using AI to unlock more and more potential out of data, is to actually, what is the story that stitches these points together and make it human, make it feel right.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, I'm also opposed to high protein pasta.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Good.
I would prefer.
I haven't tried it.
I mean, if there was a pasta that was higher in carbs, that's the one that I would go the opposite way, right? All right. That's a good sense of sort of a snapshot of kind of where we're at now. I want to get into reading those tea leaves. I want to start with this sort of kind of fizzling out of Google's, mission to end third-party cookies, right?
That went well, didn't it?
Yeah, it went great.
That was a lovely 7 years.
So surprising.
Yeah.
It was sort of like, I mean, well, it was a big agenda item. It was all like, this is going to change everything, blah, blah, blah. We're making steps. And so there are brands that made some pretty significant adjustments because of that, along with significant investments as well, I guess. They kind of gave up the ghost. The industry has sort of, I guess, moved on, but it has changed the nature, and it will continue to impact the nature of how we collect and use data in the work that we do. Ren, what do you think are some of the changes from that debacle that are structural changes to the way that we manage data and use data that, having kind of gone, 80% of the way to being ready for that transition, what are the structural changes that you think will remain for the coming, 5, 10, whatever plus years in the way that we manage data?
I think the greatest change, which I think will be sustainable, because that whole area is going to remain quite grey for a period of time as privacy is protected by the consumer. Ironically, they want personalised ads, but they don't want to tell you who they are.
Yeah.
It's kind of tricky. Welcome to our life. Is we've got first-party data, and I think organisations and brands have done a really poor job, sweeping statement, I know, of leveraging the greatest data asset they've got, and that's their existing customers, right? You're not going to know anyone better than your own customers. Well, theoretically, you shouldn't know anyone better. And I think that's a great outcome of what was a bit of a privacy debacle.
Yeah.
And we're always going to be at the mercy of whatever those platforms choose to do and how they choose to do it. But if we take this great asset that we've got, which is our customer base, and we actually invest the time and energy into gathering the right data, make sure we've got the right consent and that we're using the right platforms to keep it all clean and all that sort of stuff, that's a really good foundation for good marketing moving forwards. And that's not even, marketing to existing customers, trying to find new customers. Like we've started this new journey on something that we've always had. If you go back to the good old days, back when I was a kid, which wasn't that long ago,
Of course.
we had database marketing in a traditional sense. Banks actually had old school databases, and there was full teams. That's what they did, and they kind of tried to mine the data of their customers, and they had all of these letter programs that go out for your renewals or your upgrades.
Yeah.
You're almost my age, Andre.
Absolutely. Yeah. Early 30s.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The grey is fake. They knew then what we've probably forgotten about over time because we got so obsessed with platform insight and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like we've come almost full circle. It's like, guess what? Here's this thing. It's our customer base.
Yeah.
And they tell us what they like and what they don't like. And they're there and they already bought into our brand. And so let's unlock this potential. Sorry, that was a really long-winded way of saying I think that's probably one of the
That's a structural change, yeah. Yeah. Excellent. I mean, Heather, ABS, talk about first-party data, right? Like, you collect, all the data is, collected, originally. So it's basically the most reliable source, I guess. And I know that a lot of marketers use the data your organisation has to make a lot of their decisions as well. How do you use that then, to Ren's point, if you've got that information about your audience, which is your audience, I guess, the Australian population at large, how do you use that information in a meaningful way, in a responsible way as well, to, I guess, shift behaviours, make changes, create something, some different kind of movement, I guess, in Australian society?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I think so at the ABS, obviously, you were talking about privacy. Like, privacy is number one for the ABS. We do the census every 5 years, and every single person in the country has to, give write some details about themselves in the census, so that we get a full snapshot of the whole country. And the ABS is very serious about privacy and IT security, and all the names and addresses are taken off and de-identified, so that you then kind of just have this aggregate picture of Australia, but you can also kind of zoom in on particular postcodes and areas and things like that, and find out all kinds of information that's valuable to those communities. That if you're like, where do we need to set up a school in a local area or something like that, we need that data kind of at that granular level to know where the kids live versus where older people live, and we might need to build a hospital there or a aged care facility or something like that. But in terms of our own social media presence and marketing, I feel like I've done this before, looked at the demographics of Australia, the age breakdown, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, why our social media following doesn't match up with the age breakdown of, Australia as a whole. So we need to get more younger people. There's all this young cohort that isn't following us yet. So, we branched more into short form video to try and, kind of address that audience. So that's an example, I guess, of how we've used that aggregate data about the whole of Australia into our own strategy for marketing.
And then making those decisions about new formats and new channels, I think is probably in some ways data 101 for marketers, right? Like know where your audience is, know what kind of stuff they're consuming so you actually speak to them in meaningful ways. Have you ever made a decision based on data that surprised you about your audience?
I think, we have made decisions, I guess, based on, as I said before, kind of industry averages and things that influencers, or you might learn at a conference. So this is, video performs better than still, for example.
Yes.
And a few years ago, we were hearing this all the time. Video always performs better, and we would get lots of subject matter areas at the ABS. Oh, we want to promote this particular survey. Can we make a video? But we had, tested out various videos versus like still content, and the still pieces would always perform better. So at that time, we were going, okay, this might be the industry average that's based on, data from
General
data.
Yeah.
But if we, as you were speaking before about really knowing your own consumer, and it's like, it doesn't really matter what, what's going on out there. It matters who your consumer is and what the average is for them. So that kind of changed our strategy, and we were able to have that data to then, go back to people within the business and say, oh, actually, like this won't perform as well as this, and the video is going to take a lot more resources to make as well. As I said, that's now shifted now and changed because we've gone to short form video, and that's obviously really exploded, and that's gone really well for us, and we've kind of doubled down on that and put that across all of our channels. So.
Is that ABS on TikTok?
Not yet.
Watch out. Watch out.
You heard it first.
That's it. Yeah.
Is the ABS starting to have conversations about using AI?
Yeah, so the ABS does use AI in various ways. One example is like in the classifications, we have like, I'm going to get the number wrong, hundreds, thousands of different occupation classifications.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, they just added sort of like a social media influencer type of role, which I find very, I'm very happy about.
Exactly.
I've got somewhere to fit now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You're not just
Other.
public servant marketing. And they use AI to kind of say, can you describe all of these thousands of different occupations, and then we can go through and check them. But I think it can be really great for things like that. I like to use it to generate puns and stuff like that. Silly stuff.
Yeah. I mean, mine is primarily a pun generation.
It's the main tool.
I was thinking about it for audience segmentation. Like if we as a marketer could use ABS data and put an LLM on top of it, so we could actually understand what is the potential audience sizes now from the past and potentially into the future.
That's interesting.
Cool.
And the shifts.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
That is really curious, because the challenge with most data is it's anecdotal, right? Which is great, because it's the greatest thing we've had to date. And we go, the past has told us this thing. Now AI allows us to look at inference and probabilistic trends and data, because there's a point for you where you go, okay, historically our audience has been this demographic, and they digest charts in a particular sort of way, and they like them on, I don't know, YouTube or something. But there's an emerging audience that you won't have anecdotal data for that are potentially on TikTok or some other sort of short form video. And if you use purely data, you potentially miss the boat. And that's where these innovations are kind of allowing us to kind of see what's around the corner and lean into testing stuff, which if you were purely data driven based on what you said before, Andre, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You go, there's no data to support it. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, I want to keep projecting forward, right? I'm going to keep reading the tea leaves, going deeper, rustling between them. And Andrew, I want to get your perspective on this to start with.
Oh, no. Okay. First cab off the ranks.
First cab off the rank, mate, yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, like we said, and like Ren has very articulately mentioned, there's a greater emphasis on getting first-party data and getting obviously explicit permission for that as well, and using it in a way that's responsible. That's a big onus, though, on brands, to do that.
It's really hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's friction. It's sort of
really expensive.
How does that change the reality then for brands, like yours, that aren't behemoths and that can't just throw like a bunch of money at the problem? Does that? But you still need that data to function and succeed and learn and run marketing in your business.
Yeah, and it's not something that back in 2016, I was in London working on the global account for Ford, and there was a massive project going on by the data team within Ford, because I think they had 85 different silos of your data. Oh, wow. So did you buy a new car? Were you leasing your car? Was separate. And so unifying all of that was a 2-year project. And that's in 2016. and I don't think it's sped up very much.
Yeah.
I've sat in a lot of presentations from really high-end tech companies, you know, the Adobes, the Salesforces of the world, and they sell you the dream. Like, they are incredible at sales. They're really bad at executing, because then they hand you off to a third-party agency, and then the bills start flowing in. And every time I have a conversation with somebody about, should we utilize this high-end of town tool, I'm like, you can do so, but just 10x the budget that you think that they're actually spending, because they're going to hand you off to somebody. So I think actually getting on top of your data is a really, really big challenge for brands, and why so many people are still not doing it. And then at the same time, okay, cool, you're on top of it. Now, how can you make it as readily accessible as possible to the place where you need it the most? Like, I'd love to get to a point with our sales team, our data nirvana, where they're walking into a customer and they know what's this customer stopped ordering, what are they missing ordering, where are the gaps in this little, you know, hang on, you were ordering Hunt and Brews a little while ago, but now that's halved. Have you guys, what's happened to your shelf space? The only brands I've seen really get that hard into it in FMCG world is probably Unilever. In Europe, they have these. I'd love to know the cost of it. It's an AI driven like Cornetto machine. So like, it understands how much stock is in the freezer, it can reorder ice cream for customers.
wow.
But it's also I think it's in a test showroom where it's like actually looking at who's the kind of person going for that ice cream. I'm like, that's okay. Now we're crossing a line into creepiness. But like, you know, and a fridge that stocks itself, cool. As an FMCG brand, love that. But I think getting to that point without significant investment and being a challenger brand as well, trying to take that argument and say there is value in this if we were to invest in it.
Yeah.
And I think something that I've learned quite a lot coming from an agency background to now a client background is how many different things there are that need budget within a business to continue whatever you're doing. So the story I use at the moment is like, we could have invested more in marketing last year, but our master brand, Brown's Dairy, bought a new cheese machine. So we invested in making more cheese. Like, okay, as I think when I sat on the agency side, you kind of forget that blinders. You're like, well, everybody surely cares about brand awareness.
Surely it's like, the number one thing.
Exactly.
You know, brand awareness, then cheese.
Yeah. So I think the tools are there. I think you can get access to it if you've got a heap of capital. And if you do crack on, you're going to have fun. But I think a lot of brands are really struggling to get on top of all of that because there is such a steep curve when for the last 25 years, we just haven't touched it.
Yes.
And it's kind of been okay. And we're still here now.
So we're at kind of like a hockey stick moment, if you like, really, in that. Yeah.
So and the way that we're trying to approach it now is just finding little use cases. Like, you know, if we want to unleash, say, AI into our recipe development, I think there's a massive opportunity there because it takes a long time to understand recipes. Could we condense an 18-month timeline down to 1 month? I think the little use case in there to start building those AI or new technology investments and start to prove that ROI back to the board before you walk in. And I have had this pitch before from one of the big red tech companies who said, we can 10x your profit. And we were just like, mate, you don't even know how much, there's not enough customers in Western Australia to do that. So like,
and we just bought
and we just bought that up.
This slide one, and we were like,
and
okay.
we just bought a cheese machine as well.
We bought a cheese machine, guys.
That's right. Just on that, it's a really good point. Just because you've got the budget to do that doesn't mean it's necessarily the best use of that budget as well. And I think one of the risks that we make as marketers is trying to chase the perfect view of a customer. Because obviously then what we're going to do is we're going to personalise our marketing. If to do that at any sort of remote scale, even with AI, you would have to question whether there's any ROI benefit in that.
Yeah.
But we've got massive gaps just in getting the basics right. But to actually be chasing it to that degree is probably not going to be very useful. You lose scale in your marketing. And that's actually not great marketing.
Marketing is about scale. Marketing is about one to many.
Yeah.
That personalized, that's the job of sales. So, you know, I this is a high horse that I like to get on.
It's about finding the balance in the middle.
Yeah. One to many or one.
Scattergun.
Yeah, exactly. No. Yeah. But one to one is not the role of marketing. To be fair, in my opinion.
I started in the personalization world, and then like over the last 15 odd years, you've come full circle back to like, all right, sophisticated mass marketing. Let's go to everybody who should be in market and target all of them. And it's just been this wild curve because I think personalization led us down this rabbit hole, and now we're just counting the last click, and we forget about all the magical creative things that makes you go, oh, wow, why do I want an Aston Martin? It's not because I've seen an Aston Martin print ad.
No.
There's a whole bunch of other stuff behind
I
that.
haven't been it certainly wouldn't be the Formula One team's performance. That would be for sure.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right, I want to round the corner, and I want to think very far ahead now. I want to, just for fun, right? Imagine we're living in the year 2045, okay? And it's pretty much impossible to tell if someone's identity is real or not online, especially because so much of our lives online are, mediated by AI. So we're inferring things about who our audiences are at that point, or what we think they want, right? Heather, at the national body, right? And I know that you're not a statistician, right? I know that you're not a statistician,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You've got your fingers in the first part.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. But is it even, imagine at that point, the data's been collected by the ABS and there is, I guess, less confidence it's actually being collected about real people, or, those are actually, there's more inference than anything. Is it even responsible at that point to use data in marketing, communications, and storytelling?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one. I don't know how the ABS would ever begin to check, as you say, these things when people are able to fill in surveys and you don't know if it's a real person anymore.
Yeah.
So, but I trust in the ABS as all the smart people.
No, absolutely.
Much smarter
No.
at the ABS.
I want to leave that in their capable hands. But I guess from your point of view, if there was that concern,
Yeah.
would you go, I don't know if we should use this data in our storytelling? Does it change the way you think about?
As in, if you don't know if the data is of high quality?
If you don't know if the data is about actual accurate.
If the data's not of high quality, then that sounds horrific.
Yeah.
As a data purist,
Yeah.
data quality is,
This is the basis of everything. Yeah.
the basis of everything at the ABS.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be,
Crap in, crap out.
we don't want to have the
Yeah.
Technical
fake
term.
news as data. So that's going to be a really interesting challenge for people to figure out. We'll have to get people to start filling in paper.
Yeah, going
again,
back to handwritten
handwriting,
forms. Could you imagine? Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
isn't
it's just
it-
gone digital, but
Yeah.
I was going to say, a massive investment there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to print all those paper forms too.
Yes,
The-
absolutely.
The environment might have something to say about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do Ren and Andy? What do you guys think about that kind of?
By 2045, haven't we all been hacked to pieces? Surely all of our data's everywhere.
what I
at that
mean,
point.
like-
I think I'm up to 3 this year from major companies.
Yeah, that's about average.
Optus, IINet.
Yeah, I just cut
IINet. Yeah, that was whatever.
Yeah. At this point,
As long as you don't have my credit card information, I'm crack on
Yeah.
at this point. Well, not crack on. Don't. Where's the camera? No, stop.
This is the data.
Yeah,
This
stop
is the
hacking
data
us.
chat.
Stop hacking us. But surely by that point, if we're going to go really far out to 2045, would the government ever consider moving all of our driver's licenses to digital? They're probably going to do that.
Why are they not already?
Exactly why they're not. And then would you not, if you were a bad person, would you not try and hack that? Because then I've got your photo, your address. I can probably do some pretty evil stuff with that.
Yeah.
So I think if we're going all the way out to 2045, I think we've probably come even further full circle.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think now that we've got these tools, we're always going to have the ability to create and do a lot of really interesting stuff with it. But I would never go down the angle of hardcore personalization anymore because I think it's a waste of time. I think I'd rather use those angles to try and find the stories that unify all of us, as humans. We all laugh at stuff. We all are fearful of stuff. And you can use what the data is telling you to build these beautiful stories that, rather than being a one-to-one story, has the power to unite or bring us all together over something that's commonly funny.
Create a mass memory.
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
than-
But I think by
Fair enough.
2045, we've all of our data's just compromised.
Yeah, we definitely don't know who we are.
Sorry to you and the team at the ABS.
Dystopian future. Just on that, because I read something the other day that AI and data are it sets a stage, but creativity is the story, right? It's the play, it's the theatre, and that's the key part to it, is making sure that we retain some sort of respect and care for just keeping creativity top of mind, because it's the last lever that we'll actually have that will be able to have some sort of sweeping impact and change and convert people.
Have you seen that? I've forgotten his name now. I think it's Adam something. He's a economist or a marketer who's been studying the impact of what can brands do to drive greater profitability from their advertising over the last 20 years. And he goes back and revisits it every 5 years. The number one thing is being a big brand. If you are a big brand and you run advertising, then you are your profitability from it. Like you can see half a golden arch and you know it's McDonald's, right? The second biggest thing, which is more in the power of everybody else to be able to contribute, is creativity. Yeah. So like your brand, your logo, all these other building blocks, it's actually what's more creative, and we can all be creative. We can't all be Coca-Cola, but we can all be creative. So it's incredibly important to use that data to set the stage to tell a human story.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
You
great.
said it better than the person that I read. Well done.
I probably read the same article
maybe.
and got ChatGPT to summarize it.
Either way.
And also just talking about that future, I think the other thing is the innovation is going to happen on all fronts, right? So yeah, it's a given that we're going to have a future that far. I'm going to be retired, so this will not be
Not your problem, yeah.
hopefully.
You'll be on a
Maybe it will
yacht.
be my problem. No, it won't be on a yacht. It'll be on a dinghy in the Swan River. But anyway, different story. But the life we're going to live is going to be humans and AI working almost
Side by
interchangeably,
side, yeah.
right? And there's this, whether it's a singularity view on the world. I think I was talking to Mike or someone earlier. We're going to get to this point where we don't talk about AI. It doesn't have a life of its own. It's just so immersed in what we do that it's a given.
Yeah.
Almost like digital, but not quite. We still cling to that a little bit.
Yeah, we're all digital marketers here.
Yeah, it's a digital marketing.
it's
Differentiation.
Yeah.
But I think the technology will also help us discern AI and not AI. I mean, we've already got AI telling us that half the content that we're reading is AI.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and there will always be someone trying to hack it. So whether we go back to the good old days where thieves were people that rocked up to your house, or thieves are now people sending AI, there's always going to be that great tussle between good and bad. But I've got, hopefully, some confidence that the technology will innovate in a way that we can actually get discernible feedback from the voices that we want to hear. And maybe we actually want to do some surveying of AI because they play a role, right? And they have personality.
That's interesting, yeah.
There's companies doing it.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Evidenza? This isn't a plug, I don't work with them.
No.
They're two guys who ran the B2B Institute at LinkedIn, have created an AI platform that allows you to talk in real time to AI customers. So say you're a big tech company and you go, I need to reach a CTO. It's really hard to reach a CTO with a survey. So they use this platform to AI generate all of the different customer profiles, and they tell you who you should target, how you segment. It's cool, but like that's the innovation that we're getting to.
Yeah.
There's also the thing called hive mind, where if you're doing a research piece, right, and you need different personalities to help you brainstorm, you can just plug them in through AI, and they give you a CFO's perspective or supply chain person.
I wonder if AI, like, remember when iPhones came out and like we were all like playing with like lightsabers and blowing out birthday candles.
Yeah.
I wonder if like that's the AI that we're playing with now. Where it's just like, this is like ChatGPT is a toy, whereas
Probably,
in 10 years time, like, how do we go from your iPhone powers a lightsaber to Uber?
Yeah.
So
but
it's
also,
like-
I mean, let's keep the lightsaber if you don't mind. That
Cool.
would be great too.
Yeah. Is Jedi still big in the ABS? Is Jedi still a big religion?
Jedis.
Yeah, that was big for a while.
It was
Everybody
very
took
on
Jedis.
trend.
It was kind of popular, and then it like died down a bit.
Okay.
And I think that someone needs to kind of, maybe AI can do a bit of analysis about like when different movies came out.
Yes,
like,
I was gonna say,
when it was more popular.
The Star Wars trilogies and all that destroyed
Yeah.
that. Confused everybody.
It went over to Britain as well. They started.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Oh,
migraine.
good on them. Yeah. Everybody loves a meme.
All right, before we wrap it up, we have just enough time for the refresh round. These questions are wide open for all of you. Your hottest hot takes. Don't hold back, all right? First one. In 2050, will brands still exist, or will we have hit refresh on the whole idea?
They'll exist. Yeah, definitely.
There'll just be one mega brand.
One mega brand.
Yeah.
I think humans cling to brands too much for identity, not to exist.
Yeah.
Totally.
Good one. What's one marketing buzzword you refresh straight into the garbage?
Oh, engagement.
Really?
Oof. What does it mean? It means something different to every person.
Yeah.
Engagement, like get more engagement. Like, do you mean likes? We can optimize for likes.
Yeah.
Or do you mean engagement is you want somebody to think about it? How do we measure that?
Good.
Sorry.
Engagement.
No, I think it's great. I think we just got to plug into the engagement that matters. Go back to my absolute first point.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, fair cool.
Speaking of AI, if it got a chance to refresh your job description, what would it throw out?
I don't want to take that one.
I wish you would throw out management.
Yeah.
Manager or anything, to be honest.
That's unfortunate for a general manager
Yeah,
or something,
no,
right?
no.
What would it
And
throw
then you
out
tell
of our job description?
Yeah. What would it say? You don't need to do this anymore.
I wish it would get rid of all the boring administrative stuff and I
Yes.
could just do the fun stuff.
You do the fun stuff, yeah.
Instead of it doing the fun stuff
Yeah.
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will.
I worry about the juniors though. I hope we still have space for juniors to come through. Because
And
like,
learn
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
yeah,
That's
like
true,
you
it's
give them
fair,
the
yeah.
boring work that you can't be bothered doing, and then you show them the little fun stuff.
Or
Yeah.
even better, they start and they're working on interesting stuff from the get-go.
Stop it.
The old guy on the panel.
Yeah.
2050.
And then you
Big
can
ideas.
just expand into more and more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Well, if you could refresh the internet for the better, which one channel or platform would you get rid of?
Oh, wow.
I mean,
One channel.
X.
X, Twitter. There's not a lot of love for that platform, whatever the hell it's called. I bet you when I ask that question of everyone, I'll get a very similar response to that. And speaking of the kids, of the youth, when Gen Alpha refreshes marketing and looks back at us, what's the one thing they're going to roast us for the most?
My son's Gen Alpha. He's going to say my dad's hair.
Your dad's hair, yeah.
Got nothing to do with data or AI. What are they going to roast us for? Don't all look at me. This is an open question.
I mean, I'm on TikTok. They're always roasting us.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
millennial pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the millennial,
The-
I had to
what
explain to a
else?
millennial what the millennial pause was the other day. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sent them the ABC Explainer article, which you know it's bad if ABC has to do an
Yes,
explainer
yeah.
article on something. You're like, this was written
Jesus.
for plus 70
It's
cents.
Reach the boomers.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
reach the boomers. It's
Yeah.
reach the boomers. Well, that was a great, very wide-ranging chat. Thank you so much. It's clear that we're like at a tipping point, I guess, with a lot of stuff and how we use data and understand data in the future. Thank you so much to you, Andrew Douglas, Heather Lansdowne, Rene LeMerle, for joining me today and shedding some light on this topic. Get out there and enjoy the rest of State of Social.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Alvin.
Andre.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
us.
Thanks, guys.
If you like this refreshing conversation, then you're going to love the rest of Hard Refresh. Join me and the smart minds of the State of Social 2025 crew as we get into all the big topics so you know where we're headed in the next 25 years of digital marketing. All episodes are now live wherever you get your podcasts. And remember what your parents taught you, sharing is caring. So make sure you tell a friend or two about us and give us a 5-star review so people can discover the show. Hard Refresh is a co-production of State of Social and Original Audio. The show is produced by me, Andrés López-Varela, and Darren Matthews from Original Audio. A special shout out to Cal McLean for production support and to our executive producer, Meg Coffey. I'm LV. Thanks for tuning in. Join me for the next episode when we hit refresh all over again.